What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Deep Dive Narrative. Today, we're getting into something that genuinely stopped me cold the first time I came across it. I've been a music fan my whole life. I grew up believing the artists I loved were the ones actually singing to me. That was the voice I heard on the radio, on the album, at the concert. That was their voice, their soul, their thing. But what if that was never true? What if some of the biggest names in music history, and I mean names you know, names you love right now today, were never actually singing at all, not lip-syncing to their own voice? I mean somebody else's voice entirely. A hired singer you've never heard of getting zero credit, while the person on stage collects the Grammys, the tours, the endorsements, and the legacy. We're talking about one of the most documented, most ignored, most normalized scams in entertainment history. And today we're going all the way in. Before we even start, drop this in the comments right now. Do you think the voice matters, or is the image and the music enough? I want to see where y'all stand before this video does what it's about to do. Stay with me all the way to the end. Because where this story goes, especially with what happened with AI right now, is something nobody is really connecting the dots on yet. Let's get into it.
Having to give back their Grammy is the only time that has happened in music history.
And the best new artist is Milli Vanilli.
In the late 1980s, Milli Vanilli was the band everyone was talking about.
Milli Vanilli! Milli Vanilli!
Milli Vanilli!
Milli Vanilli!
Milli Vanilli! We're going to a Milli Vanilli concert!
But on July 21st, 1989, Milli Vanilli got caught lip-syncing on live television.
More embarrassment today for the pop singing group Milli Vanilli.
A lot of singers do that on stage, and normally it wouldn't be a big deal. But this time, it was different, because Milli Vanilli wasn't lip-syncing to their own voices. They were just two dancers hired to lip-sync to tracks recorded by professional singers.
Okay, pause. Because I need you to actually let that land. The only time in music history that a Grammy has ever been taken back, not just taken away, revoked, stripped, gone. And it happened because of something that, as this video is about to show us, is still going on right now in 2024 and beyond. That alone tells you everything about how the industry evolved, not toward honesty, but toward getting better at hiding it. Here's what the video doesn't go deep on yet, but I want to plant this early. Rob and Fab were not masterminds. They were hired. They were told what to do. They were props in someone else's business plan. Two young guys, hungry for it, who got handed an opportunity and said yes. Hold on to that, because by the end of this video, the real question isn't whether what they did was wrong. It's why they were the ones who paid the price when the system that created them just kept right on running. Think about every young artist who's ever been approached by a label and basically told, "We'll make you a star. Just do what we say." That's not a Milli Vanilli story. That is a music industry story. It's been happening since the beginning of recorded music, and it's happening right this minute. The phrase "go singer" sounds mysterious, but what it really means is someone whose talent is real, whose voice is real, whose work is real, and who gets nothing. No credit, no stage time, no Grammy speech, just a check and an NDA. That is the actual scandal, not two guys dancing on stage. The system that made it possible and profitable. And we're just getting started.
And now, you've probably heard the story before, but here's the thing nobody is talking about. Some of today's biggest music stars are still doing exactly what Milli Vanilli did. They use ghost singers to record their tracks and pretend it's their own songs. So we dug deep into this story, and what we found was just shocking. Some of the most famous names in pop music are faking it, and yet nobody seems to care anymore.
Which is very common in the music industry.
Let me tell you a story.
In the end of 87, he has an idea, and I think maybe...
This is Frank Farian, a German producer who wanted to break into the American market in the late 80s. And he knew exactly what would sell. Young, attractive performers who could put on a show on stage. So he found two good-looking professional dancers, Rob Pilatus and Fabrice Morvan.
They said, "We're working on a project, and we're thinking that you could be good for it. If we were interested." Hell yeah, we were interested.
They had the moves, the look, the stage presence, everything you'd want from a proper pop star. There was only one tiny problem. they couldn't sing. So Frank came up with what he thought was a genius idea.
One click in my mind, and the crazy idea was born. Yeah.
What if he hired professional singers to record the vocals? And Rob and Fab, well, they could just pretend to sing.
Rob turns to me saying, they don't want us to sing. They want us to lip sync the song. I'm like, what?
Since I'm an actor, an entertainer, he needed an act who poses as a singer. You know, he don't want us to sing. He never tried our vocals.
He brought in established session singers Charles Shaw, John Davies, and Brad Howell. These were professionals who would nail every note, hit every harmony perfectly, but they didn't quite have that look that Frank Farian was looking for. So Farian made a deal with them. The session singers would get paid well, but stay anonymous. Rob and Fab would become the faces. Let's just stay on Frank for a second, because this is important. Frank Farian is kind of a genius. And I think you might have heard of him because he had already done something similar earlier in Europe in the 70s and 80s with a band called Boney M. And with Boney M, it was actually Farian himself who sang on Boney M's original recordings, not Bobby Farrell, the frontman everyone saw performing. It was a huge, huge success. You probably heard of Boney M yourself. So when Frank set out to conquer America, he knew the formula would work.
Hold on. Because this right here is a detail most people completely skip over, and it's the most important piece of this entire story. Frank Farian didn't invent Milli Vanilli. He perfected a formula he'd already used and already profited from with Boney M. And Boney M was massive. Rivers of Babylon, Rasputin, Ma Baker, songs that are still playing today. Boney M had a global fan base. And the frontman everybody saw, Bobby Farrell, the dancer, the showman, the face, he wasn't singing on those records either. It was Farian himself doing the lead vocals. So this wasn't some desperate gamble. This was a proven business model he'd already run successfully for a decade before Milli Vanilli ever existed. He knew exactly what he was doing. He wasn't naive. He wasn't experimenting. He was executing. And here's what that tells me about the music industry that nobody wants to say out loud. The fraud was never the exception. For certain producers and certain labels, the facade was the product, the look, the choreography, the brand. That's what they were selling. The voice was just a delivery tool. And if the voice could be hired separately and kept hidden, that was just more efficient. Here's a question I want you sitting with. If Boney M never got exposed, if nobody ever pulled that thread, would we have ever known? Because that revelation only came out because of the Milli Vanilli investigation, which means there are artists from that era we loved that we may never get the full truth about. And that pattern, successful deception, zero accountability, is exactly what kept the industry going. Let's see how far it went.
Milli Vanilli released Girl, You Know It's True and Blame It on the Rain. The songs became massive hits. For 2 years, it worked perfectly.
7 million albums sold. This year's Grammy for the Best New Artists.
There are a lot of artists outside in the world who can achieve the same award that we achieved today. And it's an award for all artists in the world. Thank you very much.
Frank Farian was finally cracking the American market. Until that one technical error on July 21st, 1989.
The vocals that were being cued from the emulator started repeating.
Girl, you know it's girl, you know it's girl, you know it's girl. 80,000 people, girl, you know it's girl, you know. You know, I couldn't repeat it 15 times. Girl, you know, it got obvious still. So I stopped, I panicked, I ran off stage.
Milli Vanilli turns out to be a lot of phony baloney.
Uno de los mayores escándalos discográficos en la historia del pop.
The aftermath was chaos. People were confused, suspicious, and demanding answers.
A California woman who bought the album for her son is suing to get a refund.
For months, they tried to stick to the story.
Do you want to get it on and tell me now to be your everything?
For the last year, they've been working on a new album, on the dance steps and on the singing.
But in November of 1990, Frank Farian held a press conference and dropped the bomb.
I think it's fair we show the real singer.
7 million albums, a Grammy, sold out tours. Every single bit of it built on a lie that the record label, the producer, and the management all knew about from day one. But here's what I want to focus on. The video touches this but doesn't fully unpack it. Frank Farian held that press conference. Frank made the decision to reveal the truth. Not Rob, not Fab, Frank. And why? Because there was a dispute over money and creative control for the next album. Rob and Fab wanted to actually sing on it. Farian said no. And rather than let them go public on their own terms, he blew the whole thing up first. Think about that power dynamic. These two men have been carrying the entire public image of this project for years. And when they asked for something as basic as singing on their own record, the producer's response was to burn everything down and let them take the fall. And the fall was catastrophic. The media didn't go after Frank Farian. They went after Rob and Fab, two young men who were hired to play a role in someone else's scheme. The guys at the top walked away with their money and their careers. The guys whose faces were on the posters got destroyed. That's not a music scandal. That's a story about power, exploitation, and who gets protected when the truth comes out. And I guarantee you, this is not the last time in this video we see that exact same pattern.
And just like that, it was all over. For the first time in history, a Grammy was being revoked. But the biggest toll fell on Rob and Fab. They weren't just cancelled, they were vilified, seen as immoral human beings who had lied to millions of fans.
A lot of your fans will be very upset by the fact that the only way you can explain the charade, the farce, the fakery of the last year, 2 years is money.
It's not. This is fake.
No other reason. That's the only pressure that Fabian put on you was financial.
Do you live in a project? Did you live in a project?
The psychological toll was immense.
In order to cope with it, we got into the alcohol and the drugs. It was to numb ourselves and to be able to, like medication, self-medicating.
There was nothing to believe no more. For me, I lost the good, the innocence.
Keine neue Chance, mich zu rehabilitieren. Und der Fabrice auch. Und wir haben sehr darunter gelitten. Und von diesem Absturz habe ich mich jetzt bis jetzt immerhin noch nicht erholt.
Rob Pilatus struggled with depression and substance abuse, and he died of an overdose in 1998 at just 32 years old.
I need to stop here, because this part hits different when you actually sit with it. Rob Pilatus, dead at 32, from a drug overdose. 9 years after the scandal broke. 9 years of being one of the most publicly humiliated people on the planet. 9 years of being the face of fraud. 9 years carrying the weight of something a powerful producer built, profited from, and then detonated when it was convenient. The psychological toll they described, the drinking, the self-medication, the loss of identity. That's not dramatic language. That is what happens to people when their entire sense of self gets publicly shredded and they have nowhere to land. Rob was 23 years old when Milli Vanilli was at its peak. Just a kid who said yes to an opportunity that turned into a trap. What I keep coming back to, every single person who is truly responsible for this, the label executives, the producer, the management, they all landed on their feet. Frank Farian went on to have a long, successful career. But Rob Pilatus ended up in a hotel room in Frankfurt, alone at 32 years old. Notice how the outrage was directed entirely at the faces of product, not at the system that manufactured it. That pattern is so old and so consistent in entertainment that we barely register anymore. But we should, because the real crime wasn't two dancers pretending to sing. The real crime was that an industry built on image over substance found two people to put in front of it, profited massively, then discarded them the second it became convenient. Rob Pilatus paid for that with his life.
The Milli Vanilli scandal became a cautionary tale. Everyone thought this was an isolated case of fraud in the music industry, because in 1989, people still believed that what they saw was real. Authenticity in music meant everything. And this was my perception. Interesting story, but the music industry evolved, they learned, and surely this couldn't be happening today. But as we kept digging, what we found completely changed the way I see the music industry today.
Once again, Ashlee Simpson.
October 23rd, 2004, Saturday Night Live. Ashlee Simpson is about to perform her second song of the evening, but then something goes wrong.
Wrong song.
All of a sudden, the wrong track starts playing, and she does that now famous awkward dance and walks off stage. Was this just an unfortunate incident of lip syncing gone wrong? Or was it something deeper? There's something about lip syncing that just feels wrong. Like, we hate it when we're being lied to.
Claims that Beyonce was actually lip syncing are now setting the internet ablaze.
When we see Beyonce sing during the inauguration, we expect her to be singing for real, right? And when we find out she's not, we feel betrayed.
I'm very proud of my performance.
And it's the same feeling that I have every time I hear about identity thefts.
1 in 10 American children is the victim of identity theft.
I just recently learned that there are companies called data brokers. Well, what they do is that they scrape your personal information, everything from your phone number to your email address to your home address even, and then sell it online to scammers and fraudsters.
There was somebody out there with my information and pretending to be me.
It is almost impossible to stop these data brokers unless you use Incogni. Incogni is a service that automatically contacts data brokers on your behalf and gets them to delete your data. And just imagine for a second how much time and effort it would take for you if you had to do it all by yourself. But with Incogni, you simply sign up, add your basic info, and then they start reaching out for you. And within days, those gnarly data brokers, by law, have to delete all your information. This is now one of the biggest forms of organized crime we have. In the US alone, 22% of people report being victims of identity theft at least once in their life. So if you value privacy, I think you should test Incogni. And you can do that now by using my link incogni.com/asapark for 60% off on an annual Incogni plan. And don't wait for your data to be used against you. Take control and stay safe. Now, talking about scammers, let's get back to the greatest scam in the music industry.
I froze and I started doing this and I was like, okay, I think I've done the hoedown long enough. Maybe I should walk off.
Ashlee Simpson or Beyonce weren't the only ones lip syncing. Artists have been lip syncing to their own voices for decades. The Beatles even did it on the Ed Sullivan Show. Artists did it all the time on MTV, because when you're dancing and flipping around with crazy choreography, it's nearly impossible to sing live perfectly when you're on live television. Just think about those Super Bowl halftime shows. Hundreds of millions of people watching. The stakes are huge. So most performances actually do use a lot of lip syncing. And a lot of artists actually do get caught lip syncing.
Crazy rumors I keep hearing about myself. Like that I can't perform without lip syncing. Okay, which is not true. See, when I appeared on the Grammy Awards and sang Baby One More Time, I mean, I had some backup singers doing the harmonies, but I sang all the lead vocals live.
But it was Ashlee Simpson's SNL moment that went viral. She got mocked mercilessly. Ashlee Simpson went from being a rising star to a national joke almost overnight. She had to apologize publicly.
Well, I handled it calm, but when it happened, I was definitely crying, and my dad was like, "Come on, baby, get yourself together."
Appearing on shows to explain herself.
But I feel so bad. My band started playing the wrong song, and I didn't know what to do, so I thought I'd do a hoedown.
And in the beginning, she was just pretending that it was funny and that she didn't care, but it didn't help. For some reason, people just felt betrayed. The incident followed her for years, and unfortunately, it has wound up becoming the defining moment of her career.
Doing this, I didn't know how to do that. For me, it was the most humbling experience of my life, because the whole world thinks everything that you just put your heart and soul into writing is a joke.
Yet, even with all that backlash, the scandal blew over relatively quickly compared to Milli Vanilli. Within a year, she was back performing. We all moved on, because by 2004, the music industry had fundamentally changed.
Now we jump forward 15 years, and the conversation shifts completely. The contrast here actually matters a lot. Ashlee Simpson's SNL moment was embarrassing. The internet had a field day. But here's the crucial difference between what happened to her versus what happened to Rob and Fab. She was lip-syncing to her own voice. The song was hers. Pre-recorded, yes, but the voice was hers. That is a completely different category of deception than what Milli Vanilli did. And yet the public response in 2004 was almost as harsh. People felt betrayed. Why? Because there's something primal about the live performance expectation. When you tune into a live show, you're entering an unspoken contract with the artist. The contract says, what you see is happening right now, in real time. When that breaks, even slightly, people feel cheated. But here's what I think the Ashlee Simpson story is really telling us. By 2004, the music industry had already normalized so many layers of production between the artist and the audience, Autotune, Pro Tools, overdubs, digital correction, that the version you heard on an album was already a heavily engineered thing. And that was totally accepted. But the live performance still had to feel real. That was the last line. When even that line started blurring, when people realized Super Bowl halftime shows, inauguration performances, award show sets were all running backing tracks, the line didn't hold. It just shifted. The public recalibrated their expectations downward and moved on. The question is, what did we lose when we decided that was okay? Because that shift in tolerance is what opened the door to everything that comes next.
Probably best illustrated by one music production effect: the Autotune. Autotune and other tuning plugins became the #1 weapon of choice for singers. It helped them stay in key. Some criticized it as a crutch for bad singers, but it was also a creative tool. The artist was still the one singing, still performing. It was their voice, heavily processed.
So the tuning is really, really fast. So we've heard it as a normal performance, now we've got the effect on.
But here's what Autotune and other easily accessible audio plugins really changed: the power dynamic. Before these tools, the artist was essential. You needed someone who could actually sing. But now, producers could take on a wider range of singers and still make them sound good.
Someone singing, maybe if some note slightly out of tune, our computer program can actually change that and put it back in tune and give you a perfect take after the event.
The producers got more power. Artists became more of a tool for the producers to use rather than the other way around.
This is one of the most important points in the entire video, and I don't think it gets the credit it deserves. Autotune isn't just a vocal effect. Autotune was a power transfer. Before pitch correction existed, you needed a singer who could actually sing. The voice was the irreplaceable element. It's why Aretha Franklin, Marvin Gaye, Whitney Houston had real leverage in this industry. Because nobody could replicate what they did with their instrument. The moment you could digitally correct a mediocre vocal into a passable one, that leverage evaporated. Suddenly producers didn't need the best singer. They needed a marketable face attached to a good enough voice they could fix in post. And that fundamentally restructured who holds the power in a recording deal. Think about what that means for artists. If your voice can be fixed, your voice isn't your value anymore. Your face is your value. Your brand is your value. Your social media following is your value. And all of those things, unlike your voice, can be controlled, managed, and ultimately replaced by someone else's decisions. Extend that logic to go singing. If the voice is already being engineered and corrected anyway, if we're already several layers removed from the raw human sound, at what point does it even matter whose voice started the process? That's the philosophical trap the industry set, and we walked right into it. Here's the part nobody says out loud. AI didn't create this problem. AI is just a final, inevitable conclusion of a direction the industry has been deliberately moving in for 30 years. The dehumanization of the voice was already well underway. AI is just in the road. Let's see where it goes.
But what Milli Vanilli did, using completely different voices, surely that never happened again in the music industry. At least that's what we thought, until we found some shocking evidence that proved us wrong. This is Jennifer Lopez at the 2019 Grammy Awards. Multi-platinum recording artist, global superstar, someone who's built an empire on a music career. She's not actually singing on many of her biggest hits. And this isn't speculation, it's well documented and reported within the music industry. The problem is just that most people don't know about it. Let's look at the evidence. We can start with the song Play. This song was originally recorded by Christina Milian in 2000. Milian wrote it, recorded it, and it was supposed to be her single, but the label took Milian's vocal performance and gave it to Jennifer Lopez.
Producers tell me, oh, Tommy Mottola's coming in and he's gonna listen to some music. He hears play, loves it, and he's like, I want this as her single. I recorded the original demo. A month later, Tommy Mottola gets it for Jennifer.
Then there's I'm Real and Ain't It Funny. Ashanti has claimed for years that she performed lead vocals for both massive J-Lo hits, not background vocals, the lead vocals. The pattern goes beyond just a few songs. Several industry insiders are claiming the same thing, that Lopez's actual vocal contributions to her own albums are minimal. But here's what's fascinating. It's not really a secret.
Mariah says she often sleeps just 3 hours a night. When told Lopez claimed to get 8, Mariah said, quote, if I had the luxury of not actually having to sing my own songs, I'd do that too.
Okay, this is where it gets real, because we're not in the 1980s anymore. We're not talking about a one-time scandal with 2 guys in dreadlocks. We're talking about one of the most globally recognized entertainment brands of the last 3 decades. And the evidence here isn't vague rumor. Christina Milian said it directly. She recorded play. It was her song, her vocal, and it got handed to Jennifer Lopez. Ashanti said directly that she sang lead vocals on I'm Real and Ain't It Funny. These are not anonymous sources. These are named artists who came forward and said it out loud. And then there's that Mariah Carey quote. Mariah Carey is one of the greatest vocalists who has ever lived. She didn't have to say that. She chose to say that. And what she was really saying is, this industry rewards people who don't do the work just as much as people who do. Maybe more. And if I didn't have the gift, I might take that shortcut too. That's an indictment of the entire system, not just one artist. Here's a layer this video doesn't explore. There's a business structure actively enabling all of this. Go singers sign contracts. They accept payment in exchange for anonymity. The NDA is the mechanism that keeps the illusion intact, which means labels, management, and legal teams are all participating in maintaining a fiction that the public is literally paying for through album sales, concert tickets, streaming, and merch. When you frame it that way, this isn't just a cultural conversation about authenticity. It has legal dimensions that nobody is being held accountable for. And the fact that it's an open secret, journalists reporting on it, Mariah making jokes about it, insiders talking freely, just means the protection is so complete that nobody even feels the need to hide it anymore. That is a wild thing.
Music journalists have reported on it for years. The information is out there, yet Jennifer Lopez continues to be celebrated as a recording artist. She's been the judge on American Idol, for Christ's sake.
I love working creatively together with other people, but I'd never thought about being a judge, so this was all a big surprise for me.
Evaluating other people's singing. She headlines tours and festivals where people are paying a lot of money to hear and see her perform. And her fans? Well, many of them know. Social media is full of discussions about Lopez's use of ghost singers. The information isn't hidden. And this creates a weird situation, because Jennifer Lopez is essentially doing exactly the same thing Milli Vanilli did, building a career on other people's voices. I guess the difference is just the execution and the era. Selena Gomez has faced questions about her actual vocal contributions. Industry insiders suggest much of what we hear involves significant help from uncredited singers. The same even goes for Britney Spears during her peak years. And these are just the cases we know about. How many other artists are using ghost singers without any acknowledgement? When Milli Vanilli was exposed, it was a scandal that destroyed careers. But when pop stars do it today, it's barely news. So I guess the question is, what changed? Why did Rob Pilatus and Fab Morvan get destroyed for doing exactly what Jennifer Lopez has built her career on?
That question right there is the heart of this entire video. And I want to sit with it properly. Rob Pilatus and Fab Morvan got destroyed. Careers ended overnight. One of them died from the psychological aftermath. Their Grammy was physically taken back. The only time that has ever happened in music history. They were called frauds. People ran over their records in the street. A woman in California literally sued for a refund. And then this video just named multiple contemporary artists who allegedly done the same thing, or arguably something worse, because at least Milli Vanilli's actual singers got paid anonymously and had some agency in the arrangement. Christina Milian didn't even consent to having her voice given away. She recorded a song that was supposed to be hers, and it just got transferred to someone more marketable. Those contemporary artists, multiple Grammys between them, global tours, brand deals, film careers, judge seats on singing competition shows. None of them faced anything close to what Rob and Fab faced. So why the difference? I think it's three things working together. First, parasocial connection. People feel like they personally know these artists through Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. You don't cancel someone you feel like you know. Second, the normalization production artifice. We already know the music is engineered. We already know the photos are filtered. We already know live performances use backing tracks. The contract of authenticity was already so diluted that breaking it didn't register as a breach. Third, and this is the one nobody talks about, these artists are valuable business assets. Labels, streaming platforms, sponsors, concert promoters, they all have a financial stake in the image surviving. There's an infrastructure protecting the illusion that simply did not exist for two unknown German-Haitian dancers in 1989. Power protects what it profits from. That's not cynicism. That's just how it works.
Backlash, running over your records, returning them.
Yeah, I understand. I really understand them. I have to say I understand them.
In the late 80s, fans knew Milli Vanilli through music videos and occasional TV appearances. The relationship was distant, so when the music turned out to be fake, there was nothing else to sustain the connection. Jennifer Lopez, on the other hand, has over 200 million Instagram followers. They see her working out, her family moments, her daily life. Her fans feel like they know her personally.
Pretty, I'm saying you're used to seeing me kind of like the little old lady at home. And then when I get up and start dancing, you're like, oh, right, I forgot she can dance.
And when you feel connected to someone's personality and brand, does the credibility of their work matter as much? But I think it's deeper than just social media. Look at what happened in the 2010s. A new type of superstar emerged and started to dominate the charts. Avicii, Calvin Harris, David Guetta, they're producers. They don't sing on their own songs, and everybody knows it. So what happened in the 2010s was that the producer became the artist.
This is a cultural pivot that makes everything else possible. And it happened so gradually that most people didn't even clock it. When Avicii, Calvin Harris, and David Guetta became household names, when the producer stepped out from behind the console and became the headliner, it legitimized something that had previously been hidden. It said out loud, the voice is not the artist. The sound is the artist. The vision is the artist. The person constructing the experience is the artist. And once that idea took hold, the vocal became just another production element, like a synth pad or a drum sample. Something you select based on what fits the track, not based on some deeper principle about authorship. But here's what's worth noticing. The producers who did this openly, Avicii, Harris, Guetta, they actually got more respect for it because they were transparent. They'd put the featured vocalist name right in the title. The credit was there. The audience knew what they were getting. The problem isn't producers making music with singers. The problem is when the singer is sold as the artist and the actual singer's name appears nowhere. That's not a creative collaboration. That's a substitution fraud. And the industry learned to disguise it by making the business structure so complex. 10 writers, for producers, multiple featured artists, that nobody could tell what was real anymore. The complexity became the camouflage.
The singer became more of an accessory, the face of the brand, but that's not all. The average hit song today has like 10 writers and 4 producers. And when the song credits look like a Marvel movie end credit, why is the voice sacred? People couldn't care less about who writes or who sings. They care about the song, the celebrity, the icon, the personality. Authenticity became irrelevant. And it's not just music, our entire culture shifted. In 1990, we believed that what we saw was real. We believed in authenticity because we hadn't yet learned to question it. And the Milli Vanilli scandal hit at the worst possible moment, because that was the exact moment where culture turned against polish and perfection. Grunge was about to explode. MTV was launching the real world. Compare that to today, where being real can actually hurt your career.
This point is deeper than music. Way deeper. The video is identifying a cultural inflection point, the moment our relationship with authenticity fundamentally changed. And I think it's right, but I want to take it further. In 1989, when Milli Vanilli got exposed, the scandal hit so hard because it violated a norm nobody had ever had reason to question. Of course, the person you see is the person you hear. Of course, the face matches the voice. Nobody had taught us to doubt that yet, because of technology to systematically fake, it didn't exist at scale. Then came digital editing. Then Photoshop. Then reality TV that was entirely scripted. Then social media personas that were entirely curated. Then filters that change your face in real time. Then deepfakes. Then AI voices that can clone any human being's sound with a few minutes of training data. At every step, the culture had a choice. Draw the line here and protect some minimum standard of realness, or accept this new level of artifice and move on. And at every step, we moved on. The comfort and entertainment value of accepting the illusion always beat the discomfort of demanding the truth. And here's where it gets genuinely unsettling, not just philosophically, but practically. When we normalize this in music, we were training ourselves to accept presented reality over actual reality, developing a habit of not questioning the face on the product. And that habit doesn't stay in entertainment. It bleeds into everything. This next part connects this.
This is not what I look like right now. This filter should be illegal. Here's the real me.
People on social media use filters to make themselves look completely different than they actually are.
Makes me look like a better person. So it's like, I don't know, sucking my face up that way or that way. You know, like it doesn't matter as long as there's something there.
Music is tuned and quantized. Advertising no longer reflects the actual products we're buying. And I know what some of you might be thinking. I have friends who tell me that, why do you care? Their argument goes something like this, that music's core purpose is to move people, create joy, provide connection. And if a Selena Gomez concert accomplishes that, does it really matter if she's lip-syncing to someone else's voice? We've never had a problem with this in other entertainment industries. In Hollywood musicals, actors have lip-synced to professional singers' voices for years.
Only you're the only thing I see forever.
Nobody considered this deceptive.
But that wasn't ever particularly talked about because Hollywood didn't want to destroy the illusion.
And now we have deepfakes, AI content, and social media manipulation. Why is music the one area where authenticity should still matter? Maybe getting shocked and upset about ghost singers is like being shocked that Marvel movies use CGI. Of course they do. Maybe I have to look at it more as I look at professional wrestling. Like, I know it's fake, but I love the spectacle anyway. But I just can't accept that. It's an experiencing.
I love that he goes there, because this is the argument that actually matters. There's a version of the counter-argument that sounds reasonable. Music's job is to move you. If you were moved, does it matter who is responsible for the moving? If a concert made you feel something real, does the origin of the voice take that away? I get that argument. I've heard smart people make it. But here's where it falls apart for me. The promise of a music artist has always been personal. It's not just sound. It's this person's experience, this person's pain, this person's joy, filtered through this person's voice. When Johnny Cash sang about struggle, you believed it because it was in his voice. You could hear the life in it. That rawness is the information. That's what you're actually connecting to. When you find out the voice you connected with belonged to someone who will never be named, who was paid to stay invisible, you didn't connect with the artist. You connected with an illusion specifically engineered to make you feel like you were connected with an artist. That's not just entertainment. That's emotional manipulation. It's constructing a feeling of intimacy with something that isn't real. And yeah, Hollywood musicals use ghost singers. But when Audrey Hepburn's voice was dubbed in My Fair Lady, she was playing a character. The whole point of a musical is a story, a world, a fiction. The contract is always, this is a performance of something not real. The contract of a pop music artist is, this is real, this is me, this is my voice, my story. That is a fundamentally different promise being made and broken. Johnny Cash, Adele, Freddie Mercury, Kurt Cobain. The video calls these voices fingerprints, and that is exactly right. Here's something worth sitting with. Every single artist on that list achieved something go-sung artists never can. They made you feel like they were singing directly to you, not to a demographic, not to a market segment, to you specifically. That feeling of direct personal transmission between one human being's experience and your own. That is the most powerful thing music can do. And it's only possible when the voice is genuine. You cannot manufacture that. You can engineer something that mimics it well enough to fool a casual listener. But the real thing, Cash singing heard at 71 years old, knowing he was dying. That level of truth resonates at a frequency that no anonymous session singer can access, because it requires not just the voice, it requires the life behind it. And this is where I want to connect this to where we're heading as a culture. AI voice technology can now replicate any human voice with frightening accuracy. We're months, maybe weeks away from a world where a fully AI-generated artist, voice, image, personality, social media presence could go undetected by the average listener. And if we've already normalized ghost singing, if we've already decided the voice doesn't have to belong to the person whose face is on the cover, what exactly is our objection going to be? We already said the voice doesn't matter. We already said the image is the product. AI didn't create this problem. We did. When we stopped demanding the real thing, we left the door wide open.
Even when it wasn't real at all. Oh, one more thing before I let you go. We did a video about Ozzy Osbourne recently, and we're really, really proud of it. And for some reason, we feel like it hasn't gotten the attention it deserves. If you want to watch it, it's here. And if you like this video, I promise you will love that one. And check out Incogni through the link in the description, incogni.com/asapark. And as always, be curious.
The video lands this ending really well, and I want to build on it because there's one more layer here that ties everything together. Feeling real was good enough even when it wasn't real at all. That line is haunting because what it's describing is a systematic replacement of truth with the experience of truth. And once you made that substitution in one area of your life, once you decided that feeling connected to celebrity is the same as actually being connected, that a voice moving you is the same as hearing that voice, you've built a cognitive habit, a habit of accepting convincing imitation over the actual thing. And that habit doesn't stay in your playlist. It shows up in how you process news, in how you form opinions about people you've never met based on their curated online presence, in how you decide what's true and what isn't in a world that is increasingly engineered to feel real while being entirely constructed. Milli Vanilli's scandal broke in 1989. And we spend the 35 years since then deciding, step by step, compromise by compromise, that the simulation is fine. And now we're living in the full expression of that decision. Deepfakes, AI content, synthetic voices, digital humans, a music chart that already has AI-generated songs on it. A world where nothing you see or hear can be assumed to be what it claims to be. Rob and Fab ran across a stage in 1989, while the wrong voice played, and the whole world lost its mind. Today, you could release an entire album with no human being involved at any stage. The composition, the production, the vocal, the image, the press photos, the social media, and most people would never know. And the ones who did, they probably wouldn't care. That's not just a music story. That is the story of who we decided to become. And we should at least be honest with ourselves about when and why we made that choice. Okay. So here's where I land on all of this. This video goes way beyond Milli Vanilli, way beyond Jennifer Lopez, or any other name that got brought up today. What it's really about is a question I think our generation has to answer for real. What do we actually value? Because for 35 years we've been telling the industry, through our purchases, our streams, our concert tickets, our follows, that we value the image, the brand, the spectacle, the vibe. We've been telling them over and over that authenticity is optional. And the industry, being a business, has given us exactly what we said we wanted. The strongest thing this video said to me, and it applies way beyond music, is this: the moment you stop demanding the real thing, you lose the ability to recognize when it's been replaced. And in 2024, with AI generated everything getting more convincing every single month, that is not a theoretical problem. That is a daily reality. Here's my honest take. Ghost singing is not a harmless quirk. It's one piece of a much larger story about a culture that gradually trained itself out of demanding truth The artists who use it and the labels that protect them should be held to the same standard we tried to hold Milli Vanilli to in 1989. Not destroyed, not vilified, but honest, transparent, accountable. The session singers whose voices built those careers deserve to be named. The fans who paid real money for a real performance deserve to know what they actually bought. And the young artists being pressured right now by producers and labels to just let them handle the vocals, they deserve to know the full story of what that choice costs. Not just their career, but to people like Pilatus, who didn't survive carrying that secret. Now I want to hear from you. Drop your answer in the comments right now. Ghost singing should be illegal, and all credits should be made public. B, I don't care as long as the music is good. C, it depends on the artist and situation. D, the whole music industry needs a complete reset.